It is a Thursday and it's basketball season, which means Chuck and Bob are here with your social media preview of the high school basketball weekend in Indiana. And we'll start with one of our ranked teams, Culver Academy, Mark Galloway's team, 4-0, number 7 in Class 4A. But they'll have their toughest test yet, going down to Zionsville and taking on in a battle of Eagles. Now, we know all about Trey Galloway. He's having a great year. Deontay Craig scoring about 14 points a game. But this Zionsville squad has a little bit of local flavor, Bob. They're coached by the former Argus coach, Sean Buser.
Yeah, and they're 2-2, but they play a real tough schedule down there in the capital city. One of the things, too, about Culver Academy is last year they had some nice role players on that team. Now, the big guys are back, and they're scoring as you would expect, but as they develop during the course of the season, they'll get better, and certainly better defensively, and that's going to be important. By the way, your notes this week, you mentioned all kinds of undefeated teams and teams playing defense. What's going on here?
You think there's a correlation between the two?
I think there is, yeah.
I'll tell you what, Culver Academy's developed a nice third player, too, with Nick Hiddle, the young man who's going down to Indiana State, the 6'9" kid who we didn't see last year. Right. Could be a big factor in that game on Friday night. Well, you mentioned undefeated teams. Rochester is 4-0 for the first time in 30 years. What is going on down in Zebra Country? Well, as Bob mentioned, playing a little bit of defense.
Well, you know, when you're a zebra, you got black and white stripes, so now the officials are helping you. No, I tell you what, Rob Melko, as we know, is a quality coach. When the material is there, when the talent is there, he's able to coach it up and do well. It's great to see them 4-0. That's going to create a lot of interest, not only up here in northern Indiana, but certainly in that conference. They're a team that could make a big noise this year.
But they go to Stark County Friday night and face a North Judson team that has one of the best offenses around. One of the reasons for that is a young man by the name of Cooper Hochstetler. You don't hear a lot about him because Stark County's kind of away from most of the media. Hochstetler's scoring over 30 points a game. That's going to be a real test for a Rochester defense that itself gives up as a team only 30 points a game.
I'm going to say, Hochstetler, did he transfer from Westview? I'm not sure how he got down there to North Judson, but it's good to see Judson playing well again. And again, they've got a tradition back, going back 25, 30 years where they were always a power, and it's good to see them getting back. And they had some success on the football field, too, so good for North Judson.
Now, another game we'll keep an eye on Friday night, Elkhart Memorial. Kyle Sears squad, undefeated at 3-0 on the year. We saw them last Friday night against Elkhart Central. Big game for De'Arjon Lewis. He had 26 in that one. But the other night, it was Skinny Rogers and Braxton Miller who lit it up against Mishawaka. This Charger team goes to LaPorte Friday night.
And they're going to face the At Boys, and that's a pretty good challenge for everybody that goes to LaPorte. And the Slicers are playing pretty good basketball now. It's going to be tough because Elkhart Memorial wears red and LaPorte wears orange, who's who, and make sure you don't throw the ball to the wrong team. But I was impressed with Memorial. The guys who stepped up late in the game there did a good job helping them with the win over Elkhart Central.
LaPorte 2-2 coming off a win over New Prairie last Saturday. And Bob mentioned Garrett Otlarge. He had 20 points in that one to lead the Slicers to victory. I expect the ball to go up and down the court a little bit in that one. How about a big physical battle between two big schools? Warsaw at Lake Central. Now, Doug Ogle's team is 3-1. As usual, they're doing it with defense. But when they need points this year, they're getting them from some, well, maybe less renowned sources. Guys like Jalen Kuhn, and then Brock Poe, a junior, has stepped up. He's scoring in double figures right now.
Yeah, it's one of those cases where, sometimes a guy leaves your program at the end of last season and he's a little undersized or he hasn't been in the weight room. All of a sudden, your body matures, you come back, you're more confident in what you're doing. Poe's going to be one of those guys that's going to be a big factor in that conference this year.
Here's what I can tell you about Lake Central. They narrowly beat South Bend, Washington here in South Bend. Last week they fell to Gary West. Both these teams 3-1, and both of them tend to play very physical styles of basketball. The paint is nowhere for the meek on Friday night.
It'll be on the fenders and the turns, I think, yeah.
Now, in the NIC this weekend, a couple of battles to keep an eye on. One of them has Jimtown at New Prairie. Sounds like a great football matchup that we've done many times from the old Northern State Conference. This year, the Jimmies are 2-0. They just knocked off South Bend, Washington on Tuesday night at their place. Blake Garrettson with the rebound tip-in. But I'll tell you what, Matt Schaus has really gotten this team to buy into defense.
He really has, and it's going to be a good matchup. One of the things about New Prairie, they've had so much success in football that it takes a little bit longer to get some of those athletes to transition back into basketball, and that's going to happen as the season goes along. I just love what they're doing at New Prairie in a lot of their sports. It's gotten to be a pretty good-sized school,
Yeah.
and they're building a lot of subdivisions out there. They got a lot of great kids out there, so I think that New Prairie will get their feet under them basketball-wise, and it could happen against Jimtown.
Mike Bauer's team is 2-2. They started off nice, got a win over Plymouth, but last weekend lost to LaPorte. Tuesday night they lost to Marion. They need Braden Flagg and that offense to kind of get going, and as you mentioned, maybe it will as some time goes on here. Good test on Friday in Jimtown. Then Friday night, where will we be? We'll be at Hadaway Shack, checking out another unbeaten team. The Adams Eagles taking on the Marion Knights. Now, this Marion team's going to look a lot different than the one we saw last year. They don't have Kyron King anymore. They don't have Jaden Ivey anymore. Coley Quinn graduated. They do have Jerry Bracey, though, and a couple of young players in Declan Sullivan and Kaleo Kakalia.
Kalia's doing a nice job on the boards, 9+ rebounds per contest, and we thought that he was one of those guys that was really coming along last year. They're also without one of their top players because of injury, and so they are working to get it together. Rob Berger, one of the most successful coaches in our area, has a good foundation there at Marion. And again, they'll get a good test from the Adams Eagles, and Chad Johnson doing a great job there.
Well, indeed. We saw Adams last year in that tribute to South Bend Central. And over on the east side, they're playing defense like they haven't played in over a decade. They're 3-0 for the first time in 7 years. And they've got a lot of players back from last year's team that were only sophomores. Now they're juniors. Quintez Columbus at the point guard really kind of makes them tick, but they got a lot of contributions from a lot of different players on Tuesday night against Elkhart Central. They've got Chuck Worsham at guard and this newcomer, Braden Saxton, who came over from Cassopolis last year after helping them to a region.
Well, one of the things about Adams and certainly about Columbus is he's got a great basketball IQ. He comes from a pretty good background with basketball here in the area. The thing is, you got a guy out there running the point and he's able to give instructions. You were at practice yesterday, and you mentioned that they're working, they're learning, they're still teaching. But you got good leadership on the floor, and that's always so important.
So it should be a fun one Friday night. We do hope you'll join us, whether it's on TV 46 at 11 or on YouTube and Facebook Live at 7:45. It's Marion and Adams in our 46th game of the week. Until then, for my partner Bob Nagel, Chuck Freeby, thanks for joining us here on Social Media.